Hello and welcome to Drive Live. My name is Dion Knowles, I'm from Tech Equipment, and today I'm joined by Kirsten Penton with Roland the dog. Hello Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Kirsten, this is Roland.
That's good, just get that one straight. I think my dog's now deciding she wants to get in the action. I don't know whether you can hear her, but she's down here, decides that she wants to say hello as well. A bit soggy and wet from the lunchtime walk. Yeah, I think I must have rolled over her toe as I adjusted my chair. Apologies for that. Welcome to everybody who's joining us live on YouTube. Today we're going to be talking to Kirsten. Kirsten is a manufacturing engineer, and we're going to be talking about all of Kirsten's different roles. It's live, so if you're watching this live in the moment, you can ask your questions in the chat box, and I'll put those to Kirsten during the course of the next hour. So Kirsten, where are you based?
So I live in Old Trafford. I'm originally from Blackpool, and when I got to 17, I didn't know what there was for me in Blackpool. And so I said to my mum, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to go to university. First person ever in all of our families to go to university. So she said, off you go. I said, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. She said, fine. So off I went and did 4 years at Salford University, and I stayed. So I've lived in Salford for a while, and now the last 20 years I've been in Old Trafford. So I now work in Blackpool, round the corner from my mum's house. And so I get to see her quite often or wave to her as I go to work, but I won't move back.
Oh, very good. Excellent. So you started out, I believe, in doing a HND in, was it manufacturing, computer-aided manufacturing engineering?
Yes. So it started when I was a kid at school. I just thought I was going to be a maths teacher. I was very shy, very quiet, but it was something I understood. So I went to sixth form and I wanted to do maths, physics and art. And they told me I wouldn't go to university with art. It wasn't academic enough. So I did biology, which I love. But my physics teacher, he said to me, I think you'd make a good engineer because you're very creative. I can see the creative flair that you have. And I said, girls don't do engineering. That's not what we do. So he went out of his way to send me on a course, Women into Engineering at Manchester University. And it was a day of what is civil engineering and what is aerospace engineering, mechanical.
Oh, right. Fantastic.
And it was a room full of women from all different backgrounds. And so I decided that's what I wanted to do. However, I did really bad in my A-levels and I didn't get the qualifications to go straight on a degree.
Right, okay.
So I did something called a 2+2.
Yeah.
Which is 2 years HND, and then you join the second year of your degree. And you know what? I'm so grateful that that was what happened. The computer-aided manufacturing engineering, 2 years, you learn how to weld, how to do CNC programming. You were very hands-on on all of the manufacturing processes. Because then when I went onto the degree, it was very theoretical. So it was so useful to have done the hands-on before you do the theory. It makes me more relatable now in work because I can talk about manufacturing processes, you know, firsthand. So yeah, so that's, it took me a little bit longer to get my degree, but I got a 2-1. first person in the family to get a degree. So my mum was very proud.
Awesome.
Point, yeah. But then I couldn't get a job, which was a shame.
Oh, and what was, is that because there were a shortage of jobs at the time because you were a woman, do you think, or no?
So at the time, doing the degree,
Right.
it was all women into engineering. Everyone wants a woman engineer. No, they don't. No, they don't. So this is 25 years ago.
Right.
And I couldn't get a job. One, I had no experience.
Yeah.
And two, I look like this. So I literally had to just start at the bottom and work very, very hard to prove myself. I worked, so it started off, it was selling building cable trays was the factory. And I would do sales and put demo kits together for the sales teams and invoicing and speaking to the suppliers. So again, another great foundation, respectful of what other people do in the industry. And then I just had to keep hopping a bit up and a bit up. I worked in industry, Hartman and Brown, that made equipment for the oil industry.
Right.
And again, my manager was really not appreciative of a female engineer.
Oh, right. Okay.
One of the, he would smoke all the time in his ashtray. It make us a cup of tea, love.
Wow.
So I had to work really, really hard. And then every couple of years, I'd have something more on my CV. So I could move up. So the analogy I used in my vehicle was a unicycle at this point, because, my journey was really difficult.
Yeah.
Really difficult.
Wow.
Mm.
Well, I would just want to let you know, Kirsten, we've got people from all over the world watching you right now. I've got people commenting in the chat box. We've got Jeff, who in New York with a whole lot of snow. We've got Silvio from Brazil. We've got some of the guys from the UK. We've got Semi from Turkey. Cheryl from New Jersey. If you're watching this live, do let us know where you're watching from in the comment box. Do feel free to get involved in the discussion. If you've got any experiences that you relate to with Kirsten, do share those in the chat box there as well. So Kirsten, I don't want to dwell too much on the women in engineering, because that doesn't define you. You're an amazing engineer. That's what defines you, your perseverance. But how do you think your experience when you started out compares to what it's like today, when you see other women starting out a career in engineering? And do you think there's still some of those barriers there that
I would say there aren't hardly any barriers there. I mean, people, there's always perhaps personality class, whether you're male or female. There are different generations of people in every manufacturing site. You've got the old traditional people who've come through apprenticeship and, skilled. And then you've got the more modern people. But I would say still very little women into engineering, very few. I think on our site we have about 600 people and maybe 2 female engineers. It's still quite rare, but definitely treated more equally now.
Yeah.
We've
got another Amelia Lowry is a student in the UK, and she says she feels your pain as well. Amelia, do feel free to share more of your thoughts as we go through this, or if you've got any questions for Kirsten as we go through this. I just want to say a few more shout outs. So we've got Alpa, Arable from Turkey with us. Sam is just telling us that he's from Ankara in Turkey. Adnan is from Morocco. So they're all there watching.
Great.
If you're watching on demand as well, so lots of people are going to be watching this at a later date, because maybe you're on the west coast of the USA, or you're in Australia, for example, then it's going to be a little bit early for you. So do put your questions in the comment box of the video, and Kirsten can come back to you later. Anyway, so Kirsten, you said you've had to battle. You talked about this unicycle. We talk about drive live with an engineer and used vehicles as a journey. And you worked in oil and gas at, was it Hartman you mentioned? But you also then, did you go on to, you mentioned in your CV, you worked for ABB as a materials coordinator. Oh, that was the Hartman role, was it?
Yes, yes. Yeah. And again, it wasn't an actual engineering role.
Yeah.
It was preparing all of the demo kits.
Yeah.
So quite hands-on, but working really closely with the guys on the shop floor, as well as, you know, coordinating logistics and purchasing. So fully respect now, you know, I'm glad I've had that experience of the other roles. And because you have to work with the guys on the shop floor, you know, I think there's a respect there that, you know, it's not somebody in the office dictating down. You sort of see the pain that they're going through, which I think's helped me further on in life to be able to see both sides of issues, because I've experienced both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you went to work for Autoliv, and this is where you were working on the design of airbags, is that right?
This was amazing. So I got taken on as a junior manufacturing engineer. So I was there, I got the title, junior manufacturing engineer. I worked with the most amazing people. My manager was female. She was wonderful, and a great team. So that was down in Congleton. And I started, sorry, I started off
horrible.
As a manufacturing engineer, which was understanding how to make an airbag in the most lean way. From there, it developed into designing the machinery to help to make that, I'll put him down, to make the airbags. And they gave me side impact airbag, new, completely new, Audi, Renault, Peugeot, Kirsten. You will liaise with the R&D department, and then you will design the machinery and the processes and all the work instructions to make this. And what a fantastic job. However, you didn't get paid very much, and you worked incredibly long hours. But they knew it was a good experience. You know, it was a great job to have. And what I found was having to work with the guys on the shop floor, because they were having to use the machine. So very much about the ergonomics and the usability. And then I was learning all schematics and how machines work, which was really interesting. But the key part of this was working with R&D. What a different world they live in. So I hope I'm not exaggerating here, but my memory is, here's an airbag that's been qualified by the R&D department. You now take that to full production. We'll need 1,000 a week. And here was these 2 bits of fabric held together with staples, Pritt stick, blue tack. Okay, go and make that productionized. So they had qualified the design, you know, they're very, very clever people, but never thought about how are we actually going to make this? Yeah, everything was hand sewn, handmade, and to go into a full production line was so disjointed. So, Kurt, of course, we learnt a lot. at that stage. So then I asked to transition. I asked to be the manufacturing engineer, but working in R&D.
Right.
So they would, you know, we would be now in the same building, in the same room, and they'd be walking around with all these like bits of paper and bits of fabric. But then we were talking about, Kirsten, I need to sew this together, but I need to have a vent open to put the explosive mechanism in. How do you think we could do that from a production point of view? So it was fantastic. All of a sudden, we were starting to understand each other. And from that, we learned how to go from concept to production really quickly. And this was at the time when airbags was a new thing and everybody wanted the airbags. So we were looking at side impact, passenger bags were new. And they're coming up with all sorts of crazy ideas for airbags for dogs at the back of the car, things like that. So that was a wonderful few years that I spent working there. The passenger airbag, I think it was the Freelander in Australia.
Well, sorry about that, slight technical issues there.
Did we get cut off?
That. Yes, I got cut off and kicked out, and we're back. Sorry, so Kirsten, you said you were working on making these airbags more manufacturable, actually turning it from a concept to a manufacturing process, and then you moved into R&D, and that's the point where I lost you, or I dropped out. It all went. You, the rest of the world might have heard about it.
Maybe. I was just saying,
I'm unsure if they did.
What a huge improvement that was, to be able to talk to each other directly about their ideas, and I would know what was possible from a manufacturing point of view, because I also had the ear of the operators saying, I can't sew like that, I can't do this like that. So it was really good to bring everything together, because then we could bring the lead time down. And this was at the point where everybody wanted an airbag. It was a new thing in a car. So side impact airbags were brand new. And then we were working on the passenger airbags. And it was just fascinating, and what a wonderful place to work. I got to go down to see the test, the test dummy, trials, and I think I probably still got an airbag up in the loft that I kept. But wonderful learning experience. But when I was then working on the passenger airbag for Freelander. They were in Australia. So you'd come to work at 8 o'clock, but then you'd have to wait till maybe 11 o'clock at night to have that conference call with them. So after several years, when I moved from junior manufacturing engineer to manufacturing engineer, and then technical manufacturing engineer with the R&D department, and I wasn't getting paid very much money, and I couldn't drive, so it was all a time for change, I decided. And a job came along that I applied for at Federal Mogul. And Federal Mogul,
remind us, what do they do?
They make car cables. So it's weaving machines. So I'd come from an industry of fabric textiles, sewing and weaving, and this Federal Mogul job was using looms to weave like a plastic filament to make like a sock. And then these would go over the car cables, either to reduce vibration or noise or protect from heat. And again, another fantastic manager there. And I was still really quite shy and quiet at this point, but he saw something in me, and there was no engineering department. There was no manufacturing engineering department. There was a maintenance department.
Wow.
Federal Mogul's a very big company. You know, they do car brakes, all sorts. And he said to me, off you go.
Wow.
You've designed machines, you've designed layouts, you know, you've worked with R&D. Off you go. Okay. So relayed the whole shop floor and colour coded it. Okay. Now we'll start to see from this point on that I leave a rainbow behind me wherever I go, because everything gets colour coded. And you know, it was writing manufacturing procedures, and again working with the guys about, again, it was all about health and safety very much as well, about the noise of the looms and what could we do. Now the manager I had there decided to send me on a course, I think it was about 25, still very young, called Young Managers. And it was everybody from Federal Mogul, all the different sites. Could you spot somebody that was going to be a manager in the future, and let's grow them? So it was over a couple of years, about 8 different modules. I learned law, profit and loss accounts, finance, well, all different aspects of how I was going to be a good manager, all about quality systems. And one of the modules was for me to go to our site in Compiègne in France and work with the R&D department. Oh, I was so frightened. He went, you can do it. Go on, you can do it. So there I went in a little taxi and then got on the plane and got off the other end and had to find my way to Compiègne. And again, what a wonderful experience that I was given, to be able to liaise with their R&D department and our manufacturing site to bring us together. So that went on for a few years, where I got to go every month. They sent me to Compiègne, and we created some wonderful new products with Teflon. Unfortunately, you know, like many companies, industry changes, and that site was diminishing and amalgamating with other sites. So I came to a point where I had to look again for work. And what did I do? What happened after Federal Mogul? I think I went into, I decided that there was no business left in automotive and that I should do something completely different.
Yeah, and you did. You shifted industry altogether, didn't you?
I did. I went to work for Marconi, as they were called at the time. They were based in Liverpool. So even though I'm now in Manchester, I've never had a job near Manchester. I've had to travel like an hour out. But at least I'm travelling out and I'm against the opposite way, against the traffic. So I went for this interview, an electronics factory. Marconi is huge. Thousands of people work there. It then became Jabil, if anybody knows that name. And again, wonderful manager. And I think that's been the key to my success. Having a wonderful manager that sees something in you and believes in you to grow your confidence. So I went for an interview, Jacques Marteau. I expected him to be French, but he was very Scouse. I had a 6-hour interview.
Ooh, what a marathon.
And it was a lovely conversation, and we walked the site, and I just thought he was being polite. Right. I really did. We got on really well. So the next day I got a phone call saying, you've done really well, you got down to the last 2. Okay, Okay, that's fine, absolutely fine. And then I got a phone call saying, no, you've got the job. So I have never done electronics before. I've never seen a soldering machine. I've never done anything with circuit boards. Okay. I remember in my physics class at A level, my physics teacher used to dread it if we had to do anything with circuits because I would blow it up. So here I was. So I, chatted with Jacques, and he said, we have a new process. We normally solder all the components on a circuit board. He says, but we're going to try something new. I'm going to open up another building, and the connectors are going to be push fit. So the connectors are going to go through the holes.
Yeah.
So we're going to buy robots. We don't know what they look like. We don't know what they're going to do, but we want the board to come in, and it'll have all the holes in, and we want the robot to pick the right connector, move it and fit it in. So that's going to be your job.
Wow. And so you'd had no PCB design experience, nothing like that?
Nothing with robots. I'd been in the textile automotive industry.
Right.
So, but I think it is my journey and these managers having faith and saying, you can do it, you can do it. I just kept going for these challenges. So it was amazing. And I think I would have stayed there. I think I would have, when you find your job for life. At that point, it's not being stereotypical, but those Scouse people were so friendly and helpful. And the old boys, and I'm still an honorary member of the old boys club, they took me under their wing.
Oh.
And we still meet every Christmas except for this Christmas in Liverpool for a drink and a catch up. So they took me under the wing. It didn't matter there that I was female and I had no experience. It was wonderful, and I got to travel all of Europe.
Wow.
Looking for robots.
Wow.
It was incredible. And at this point, you were allowed to be taken out and wined and dined. There was nothing about blackmail or, like preferences. So, got to go skiing and I've got to go skiing and everything.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. What's an advocate for a career in engineering? I know if you ever do, I'm sure, I know you're part of STEM groups, and I've done a few things where I've gone into schools, and the first thing kids ask you is, well, what do you get paid? And do you get a business, if you go on business trips, do you get everything paid for? And that's, that's always one of the first things that they consider. Perhaps that's not the really serious students. The serious students want to ask about the details.
No, but on a serious note, engineering is a very well paid job. I started off very low paid. I appreciate that now. I had to work very hard to move up the ladder. I appreciate everything I have now. But it was when I got to Marconi that I got the step change in the salary. And they really did look after me. So I had several years there, very happy, developing the processes in my little building 44. And then they got taken over. There was some very bad decisions made with stocks and shares by the Marconi management, and Marconi was no more. So it got taken over by a company called Jabil, who are an American company. And this big stereotypical guy came over. Gosh, what was his name now? Phil. And people were very resistant for change. And this was the first time really I'd seen the difficulty in change management.
Right.
People didn't want to change. They were one big happy family. Everything was fine, leave us alone. And then this big American guy coming over saying, hey guys, come on, you know. And yeah, that was a difficult time.
I mean, it is so challenging when you've got two organisations merging together, particularly if you've got a small organisation that's like very much of a tight-knit family culture, and then they're coming into a bigger organisation. And whatever the bigger organisation wants the vision of respecting those values of the small organisation, they still have to meet in the middle. They still have to become one. And that is, for some, such a massive boundary to overcome, and just takes so many years. And I think that's often underestimated, that culture, that period of culture change.
That's it. That was my first exposure to the difficulty in people change management. People became rebellious, negative, and really their jobs had been saved. And Phil was great, and he had a battle on his hands, but I loved his resilience. He would say, we're going camping next weekend. I can't go camping. He's like, why? I'm like, I'm going back to Blackpool to see my mum for a few days, and my sisters and my brother. So I can't go camping. He went, just come back a day early and we'll meet you at the train station. I was like, I haven't got a tent. I'll get you one. There was no excuse. And this guy would make us do these activities, and it was almost forcing us to rebuild all our bonds.
Did it work?
Pardon?
Did it work?
Absolutely. He would make us go out quite often on a pub crawl together with him. Yeah. And you know, he paid for it, but he was determined to break down the barriers of us and them.
Yeah.
And it worked. However, the company had lost too much money.
Right.
So Marconi was a huge site on Edge Lane, and to close that down was horrific for everybody. But the mother company was in Coventry.
Right.
And so I was asked, would you take these robots down to Coventry and set them up? Take about 3 months. You're staying there, living in a hotel. And I was like, I don't know whether I could live away from home for that long. Now, I'm still in a flat, you know, a rented flat at this point, and that, you know, I had no family or partner or anything. So I was like, okay, let's be brave again. Say yes. Oh, I had a brilliant time. Oh, it was so great. There was a team of like a dozen of us that went down. We just lived the ball. We worked hard, we played hard. You know, to be eating out and drinking out and having to live sort of with 12 strangers for 3 months. But it's like being back at university again in halls of residence, almost.
But on a corporate budget, not a student loan budget.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. But unfortunately, it was too late for Coventry.
Oh, really?
So on my last day, Phil came to me and said, we're going to have to move it to Hungary.
Oh my gosh.
And I went, I don't think I can. And he said, it'll be about 5 months. Will you go? I need you to go. You're the only one who understands these robots. I said, who else is going? He says, nobody. And you can't tell anybody.
Oh gosh.
So it wasn't like go to France or go to America or somewhere where you sort of felt you knew it. I didn't even know where Hungary was.
So quite a cultural difference.
Yes. Yeah, so I spoke to my family, and again, I didn't want to. I thought I'll stay safe, but then there was something niggling me saying, if you don't do this, you'll regret it. So I went out one October for Halloween to meet the guy. So it was a Scottish manager who'd gone from our Scottish site, Eamon, again, fantastic, and he met me there. Now, the site is at a place called Tiszaújváros. It was 2.5 hours drive out of Budapest. And you were going down the motorway and then it just turned to a dirt track. And then you went for about another hour and you ended up at this little tiny village that looked like it'd been built in the 1960s. Because it was quite new. I think Tiszaújváros means new town on the river, something like that. And it was all very square and concrete. This beautiful factory in the middle of it with marble floors. It was beautiful, but it was so cold. I went there. It was Halloween. I got invited to the manager's house for a Halloween party, very welcoming. And so I stayed 8 months. I absolutely loved the opportunity to work with a different culture set of people. The snow in winter, well, it'd be up to my waist. Nobody was late for work. Nobody missed work. Okay, so if you know a little bit about the history of Hungary, and I recommend everybody to go there, they got their independence back, and their government decided to send their best people out across the world to decide what was the best education system, what's the best medical system, what's the best law system. And so they rebuilt themselves, and it's not that long ago. So these people that were working at the factory at Victrex in Hungary were all well-educated people, and they wanted to work. Yeah. Really amazing mindset. They wanted to learn. So literally in the winter, every hour on the hour, people were out sweeping the roads and their pathways to make sure they could get to work.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the only difference was I couldn't speak Hungarian and they couldn't speak English.
Oh, what a challenge. How'd you get around that then? Lots of sign language.
Speak loud and quietly, loud and slowly. You know, so fortunately, engineering has a universal language of schematic diagrams and, you know, running the machine. They were trying to practice their English. Because I wasn't working with the office staff, I was working with the maintenance team and the operators. And then I decided to go and take Hungarian lessons. It's fantastic. I mainly remember the swear words.
I was going to say, can you say something for us? Perhaps you shouldn't if you can only remember the swear words.
So kellemes hétvégét, that's have a nice weekend, and jó estét kívánok, hogy vagy? So good evening, how are you? There's something about the word hodgepodge.
Hodgepodge.
Hodgepodge. If you say hodgepodge, it means I need a wee.
Okay.
Hodgepodge means how are you, if you say it properly. So I represented this part of my career as a Trabant car because that's mainly what they drove.
Yes, yeah.
Very simple, humble lifestyle. It was very grounding. However, I was still getting paid the same wage in the UK. So I think at that point I was on something like £1,300 a month. My equivalent was on £130 a month.
Right.
I can't remember the specific numbers, but that's how hugely different it was.
Wow.
So this house here now
Yeah.
was bought with the money that I got from doing that trip. Not all of it, of course, which I would have never been able to do. Especially nowadays, it's so difficult for children to get on the property market.
Yeah.
So so I stayed there for 8 months. Now I must say, the other engineers that came out there were from America.
Right.
And we all lived together in this little pension. We had a great time. We really did. I learned how to play darts and snooker quite well in the
You
evening.
can't beat a good game of darts, I tell you. We got a dartboard during lockdown. Thought I had to teach the kids.
Yeah, we had like drinking rules to go with ours, though. You know, it was
That sounds dangerous.
an amazing part of my life. I did a lot of traveling. So because of the money I was on, my sister flew over and we sailed on the Danube on a hydrofoil to Vienna. I had a weekend in Vienna. Me and some of the guys, the American guys, with the Hungarian manager, Rudy, got a yacht and we drove down, I think it's Slovakia or Slovenia, I forget which, to the coast, and got a yacht and sailed to Venice on a yacht. You know, I mean, what
a life.
What a life.
Wow.
And
well, for Amelia, we've got Amelia Lowry who's watching, and she says, I think she's had to really struggle as a start out.
Yeah.
She was told she only got the job because she was a girl, because they needed to sort out the diversity.
Yeah.
And now she's worked for a year and proven herself, and kind of working on a part-time on a final year degree. But I think that's kind of heartening what your experience, because you said, it was really hard to go in there to start with, but it's actually through perseverance and people looking beyond the agenda. They've been able to give you all these amazing opportunities and recognise your talent.
And you've just got to be brave and say, do you know what, I'll give it a go. And it's about your energy, your enthusiasm, your ability to communicate with all different levels, I would say is key.
Yeah.
You know, at the beginning of my career, I was knocked back a lot.
Yeah.
Failed my A levels, had to do a HND, couldn't get a job. But, you know, it's given me the confidence now to be a better person, because I've almost worked from the bottom up, you know. Whenever I start a job, I always ask to learn the job that the operators do first.
Right.
And it was only when I went into aerospace that I wasn't allowed, because I didn't have an aerospace apprentice background. But I've always worked the shop floor first. If you don't get buy-in from the people who are going to not work for you, but take on your processes, if you don't get them involved, then it's not sustainable.
Well, there's no respect and no. I guess, you know, you're not on a level. You're not proving that you're on a level with them.
Yeah.
And they can always say, well, you don't understand what we do.
Exactly. So, you know, I'm, you know, try to be quite humble and see things from their point of view. And I've had a few run-ins with the union through my career, which again, you know, sometimes you need a little knock to give you a reality check. And, you know, it's not about me achieving my goals, it's about how to make things better.
Yeah.
And that's considering what the guys and girls on the shop floor need.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do the hilltop view and you look at it from their perspective, then the solution that you come up with might be different from the best, but it will be a winning solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think as a female engineer that we've all had, you do have to work harder until you've proved yourself.
Yeah. So then, you went from Hungary, and at that point you'd done your 8 months there, rather. And what did you do then from there onwards?
Well, I didn't know what to do. I was very sad. And I didn't know how I would ever find somewhere to work like that again. I thought it was a rare opportunity that I'd had. So I had a very open mind. I wasn't, only because I didn't know, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. There was a contract came up working for Johnson Controls, who supplied to Jaguar. And I went there very confident, and I hated it.
Oh, really?
Really hated it.
What were you doing there?
Manufacturing manager, well, manufacturing engineering deputy manager, something like that. So again, a lot of problem solving and making improvements, but nobody wanted anything improving because they were Jaguar.
Okay.
So it was really,
it was like an uphill battle of
it was
they
an
like the
uphill
idea of
battle,
change but didn't want change in reality. Is that it?
And I think, and I hope I'm not offending anybody, it's a bit elitist, and I just didn't fit in. I honestly did not fit in with their culture. They'd, got their rules, how they worked, and I absolutely went flat.
Yeah.
I just thought, I can't do anything anymore. That's it. I've had the peak.
What did we you associated that with what vehicle was that?
Well, Jaguar, well, it is a modern one. I did one with the doors come up because I went from there into aerospace. I thought, try another industry. Yeah. Get out of the car and try that. So I learned a lot from Jaguar. I learned that you couldn't just go in and be bolshy and assume that everybody liked you and your style. It would be nice if that was always the case, but it wasn't. So I went for an interview at, I forget what they were called at the time, but Aircell in Burnley. So again, another hour's drive from the house. Again, a wonderful manager, Darren Challender, who I keep in touch with today. Again, he saw something, and I'd never been in aerospace, and I would say aerospace is a bit cliquey. A lot of people come from the apprenticeship route,
right?
And I didn't know anything about making a thrust reverser. So these people had been working up through the ranks from being an apprentice, and then I was like, here's Kirsten. She's a level above you because she's got loads of experience, but she knows nothing about aerospace. So can you support her, manager, help her? And a lot of them are like, I don't think so. That was a difficult few years of my life to be knocked right back to start at the bottom and prove yourself. Very old generation of people. They're very skilled sheet metal workers and welders, like a dying trade now, unfortunately. I didn't even know which way to hold a rivet gun.
Right.
It's embarrassing. I'd gone from sailing a yacht to Venice
Yeah.
to being, I don't know what to do. I don't.
Right.
So that was a few years again of just knuckle down, work, until you can start getting people's respect and people on board. Very heavy union there. Yeah, they didn't particularly like me either. Because I would come up with all these weird and wonderful ideas for solutions. That's not the way they work.
Right, yeah.
Okay? But
Yeah.
this was my creative flair that I've always had coming in. However, you know, perseverance, and you know, you get recognition, and you start to fit in.
Yeah.
And one of the managers said to me, would you like to try this new course? It's Lean Six Sigma. It's a green belt level. Well, try that. And that was again a massive change in my life to how I work now.
Right.
And I became a chartered manufacturing engineer at that point.
Okay.
Because I got nominated. Now that was a challenge. The Institute of Manufacturing don't really like manufacturing, they like mechanical.
Okay.
You have to be nominated, you have to write a paper. It's a very old school, sort of like Masons. I hope I'm not offending everybody. I'm so proud that I'm a member now. So you have to write a paper, you have to be nominated by 2 people who are chartered to a high level, and then you go and you sit in front of a board and they interrogate you about what have you invented? Nothing. What have you created?
Manufacturing engineer.
I got it because I was female as well, and manufacturing, it was another wonderful achievement. That now, chartered engineer. I should put the letters after my name on everything, really. And in aerospace, I mean, thrust reversers are huge, and they were all handmade, literally. And you would say, how long is it going to take? Don't know, love. I'll probably have to work weekend, you know, to people try. Oh, are we going to meet the lorry? Are we going to meet delivery in 3 months? I don't know, love. I'll probably have to do a lot of overtime. Nobody knew what they did. Very, very skilled people. Yeah, everything was literally handmade. My manager then said to me, I want you to turn it into a tact-driven line.
Okay. Can you explain what a tact-driven line is?
So that you would break up every station into the equal amount of time.
Oh, right. Okay.
So that as this stage finished, and you would index everything along. So you have to work out the demand. So it was 16 thrust reversers a month.
Right.
You work out how many man hours you have available, divided by the 16 that you want, and that's your tack time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the tack time I came up with was 8 hours. So I had to define an 8 hours package of work.
Oh, okay.
How long does that take? How long does it take to do that? How long does it take to do that?
Right.
Can I have a word, Kirsten? Can you come into the union office? You are bullying the operators. You are stressing them out, asking them how long things take. Oh, God. The manager's saying, you must do this. And the unions are saying, you're upsetting people. Well, what do you do?
So what did you do?
This is where I learnt about the hilltop view.
Right.
And I had a very honest conversation with the PTLs. They thought I was all that. Yeah, I thought they were arrogant and obtuse and unhelpful. And so my manager said, I think you just need a heart-to-heart. I think you've got to break this down, and this is going to be a difficult conversation. So we did. We all sat in a room like that. I think we need to talk. And it was very awkward, and I didn't know what would happen. But we broke down barriers, and I said to them that I've been asked to do this. I can't say no because this is my job. And they said, but you know, this is a huge change for us, huge, and we are skilled fitters, you know. So to go to a, you know, like they almost thought about it like a production line, fast production line making widgets. We can't do that. It was conversations like, roughly tell me, you decide, that's the beginning, that's the end, you roughly chop it into 10 sections, just roughly chop it, okay? I'm not bothered where you chop it. And I would know, like, that piece of work would take 6 hours. I knew that. They wanted 8. Okay, that's a start. Yeah, let's start. And then at least we know we had a system. And then I said, for you to stick to this, you know, this package of work in 8 hours, what would it take? They said, we want the best tools, we want the best rivet guns we can buy, yeah, and we want 1 per section. There's a team of 3 per section. We want them. Like, okay, I'll get them for you. You stick to your time packages. I'll get you the tools. And that worked. So it wasn't me going, you must. It was very much a big compromise. It was very much me saying, I'm sorry if I've approached this wrong. You know, unions have told me off. And seeing it from their point of view, they were then happy to come in and do their work, as long as they got from that to that in 8 hours. And they were doing it in a nice environment now. Yeah. New jigs, new trolleys, colour coded. You know, I'd moved equipment out of the way so they weren't as constricted. So I was there 12 years. However, and I think a lot of people may relate to this, you get to a certain position of achievement, of recognition, you get made a manager. I got given 8 engineers to manage. It was awful. I didn't want to do people's appraisals. I didn't feel comfortable. And people were so concerned about if they'd sent like a holiday request in, have you booked it? Have you booked it? Have you booked it? It was a completely different job for me. Managing 8 engineers, sit behind a desk. It just wasn't me. And again, I was really low at that point because I felt lost, and I thought, I've worked really hard to get to this point, but actually I don't like it. Yeah. I don't like telling people off, calling them into the office. I want to be out there solving problems. So yeah, it was again another drop for me, mentally, physically. And they did this buddy up system, which was fantastic. It came at the right point where I got buddied up with one of the senior managers, and he worked in supply chain, nothing to do with me. I could go to him whenever as my confidant. And it was some discussion saying I'm not happy managing 8 engineers. And he said, Kirsten, he says, what people don't know is you're either a manager or a specialist. He says, and both are equally wonderful. He says, if you're really good, you don't have to be a manager. Yeah, you don't have to be. It doesn't suit everybody. Yeah, it's a completely different way of working. And so from them, I decided I was going to become a black belt in Lean Six Sigma.
Right.
It was wonderful. I went to Safran University in Paris, learning all these mathematical principles from, you know, deriving them from first principles, back in statistics. Was so happy. And then when I came back to work at Aircell, it was Safran at that time, I became the manufacturing engineering leader, something like that. And I had specialised projects. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. But if I hadn't have spoken up, you know, maybe I would have stayed managing people. And I think that's what happens. You do a really good job and you get promoted to manager, but it isn't the right path for everybody.
And I suppose there's this idea that that's where you want to be, but the reality of it once you're there is not necessarily what you think it's going to be. So then you went on to, you moved out of Safran and you went to Landis and Gyr to work on smart gas meters.
Yeah.
That's a interesting move of interest in industry.
When I started in aerospace, I was single. 12 years later, I'd got married, had 2 kids and got divorced. And the logistics of me working those hours as a single parent and trying to get the kids in and out of nursery, school, it was too much for me. It was. And one of the ladies, Rita, she'd left Aircell and she'd moved to Landis and Gyr, which was Stockport, which is like 20 minutes away. And they make smart gas meters. So she's like, come Kirsten, it's brilliant. There's so much opportunity for you. And she said, there is a job going at the minute for a Kappa engineer. I said, what's that? She went, corrective action, preventative action engineer. I went, I don't know anything about smart gas meters. She said, you're a problem solver. She said, it doesn't matter wherever you've been, you're a problem solver.
Right.
So it doesn't, she said, get your foot in the door. It's expanding so much. Everybody has to have a smart gas meter by 2020. We can't make enough. And there's jobs all over. Just get your foot in the door. So I went there doing nothing. Learned a lot about how smart gas meters work, but I got quite quickly moved job. They created a role for me called black belt. I was the black belt.
What that was all about. Why job title black belt?
Black belt. Yeah, what does it mean? They made it up just to give me problem solving projects.
Oh, cool.
So I was the black belt for the Lean Six Sigma for the site. It was about cost reduction. It was about flow. It was about repeatability of the machines. Again, robots again. I was on the shop floor, learned how to solder by hand. Yeah, I had a really great time. The thing is, with smart gas meters, Brexit came along, and now we don't need to have a smart gas meter. And the energy companies don't really want us to have a smart gas meter.
Right, okay, so the market dropped out.
And actually, we were trying to get to market so quickly that there were, at the time, smart gas meters in homes with issues. So there was a lot of recall.
Okay.
Which meant a lot of fines.
Oh, right.
Which meant after 2 years, Kirsten were closing the site. We're moving it to Romania.
Not again.
I know I'm like a bad curse. They said, we're moving it to Romania. Do you want to go? And I went, I can't.
Got kids?
I've got kids. I can't. I would, but I can't. So a very interesting thing happened. I put my CV out. I could have had an easy year there as they were winding down, but I just thought I'll update my CV and put it out. And within a couple of weeks, I got a phone call from a recruitment agency saying, I've seen your CV. I've never seen anything like it. You've worked everywhere. You know, you've achieved, you know, great status. You've got great references. Job for you. But it's in the chemical industry. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. I can do it, you know. It's in Greater Manchester. I said, wonderful. She said, can I give them your CV? Yeah. Phone me back. They love you. They want to meet you. Can you go for an interview? I was like, yeah. Here's the address. It's only in Blackpool, round the corner from where I used to live. I could walk there, yeah, from where I used to live. And I went, this is not Greater Manchester. I went, I'm not doing the driving. I'm not doing it. They said, just go for the interview. Then you can put it to bed in your mind, can't you? That it wasn't right. Loved it.
Yeah.
So excited about that opportunity. And now I would say this is the job I want to stay at.
Yeah.
So I now work for a company called Victrex. They make high-performing polymer plastics. I should have got some ready to show you. The little tiny pieces of plastic.
Right.
The site is a huge, great, big chemical processing plant. People would think it's ugly. I love it. Yeah, it's so exciting. And the recipe for what we make, it's like Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe. Nobody knows it. So the site at the back end of Blackpool is making the world's leading high performing plastic.
Wow.
I mean, we were world leading. I mean, you know, China's catching up with us and other sites. And there it was, right on my doorstep, all along. Takes me an hour and 20 minutes to drive each way. And I thought I'd hate that. Do you know what? What a wonderful time for reflection and thinking that I actually really appreciate now.
I understand that from my own personal experience. Audiobooks are amazing. Time to think, time to actually come up with ideas and let your creative mind,
Yes.
or just actually think and not have anybody demand anything of you, yes. Whether it's children or work or anything.
The dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm working, you can see, which has become a challenge, you know, adapting to working that way. But, you know, I drive to work and I see my big sister walking the dog most days to each other. I used to be able to pop in and see my mum for a coffee, and my brother and my sister. And what I like about it, one, it's very exciting that you're taking what they call a recipe, so all these raw ingredients, and you're making this amazing product that's going into many different industries, which I'll mention in a minute. But what I love is that people will have a go. And they think I'm a bit, I'll say unique, okay? And I'll say, I've got a great idea. Why don't we try this? Or why don't we think about doing it like that? And they'll say, do you know what, Kirsten, we'll have a go. We'll have a go. That's all I want. Yeah. And again, it's about working with the guys on the shop floor and then going to the managers saying, this is what they want. And if I can support them to make improvements that they know is an improvement, then it's going to be sustainable. So you've got to listen to the guys on the shop floor and the girls. You've got to listen to them. And you know, the managers will say, you know, that, you must achieve this year, but you're not going to achieve it unless you go on the journey with them.
Yeah.
So these plastic parts we make, and you must go on the website, it's amazing. And look, I've even been reading the technical data sheet here. So we sell these parts and they go to be injection molded. So we injection mold them into gears.
Okay.
Okay. And these gears can perform at minus temperatures up to about 320 degrees.
Wow.
It's
Right.
not a metal, so you don't have that corrosion, rust, expansion issues. So these gears go into like snow plows in Canada.
What
So
about the durability of them then? If you're comparing a plastic to a metal?
theoretically, you don't ever replace one.
Wow. Okay.
So okay, it's plastic. Yeah, it's plastic. But if you're not having to throw things away,
Yeah.
then that's good. Aeroplanes, we now injection mold some weight bearing brackets that would have been titanium.
Yeah.
They're 60% lighter.
Wow.
Okay, the tensile strength's amazing, 60% lighter. So you imagine us replacing the metal parts on aeroplanes for something lighter, that's less fuel, that's less carbon emissions. We make pipes that go in the ocean to transfer cables and stuff. These pipes don't corrode like metal. They don't affect the wildlife in the sea.
Yeah.
But most exciting is that we now make medical devices, knees, trauma plates, bind cages. Now, Tiger Woods had one of our spinal cages fitted, and you know, we'll take all the credit that we got him back playing golf.
Oh my goodness.
So you can't be allergic to them. So if you had broke your wrist, had a metal plate fitted, you could be allergic to it.
Yeah.
This you can't. You can't be allergic to it. But if you now have an X-ray, you don't see the metal, you're seeing the bone. So the doctors can see what's happening in the bone. They're not distracted. And a knee, imagine how much lighter a plastic knee is to a metal knee.
Yeah.
Yeah, in winter it doesn't get cold and heavy. So then now there are live transplants now. I think it's in Italy that people are using the plastic knees.
So like kind of rounding up on your whole career, Kirsten, are there some key things that if you were to share them with young engineers, things to take away, things to keep in mind, what would your key messages be, I suppose, to them?
Be humble and really listen to the people who are making the product.
Right.
Yeah. And if you get them on your side, they will tell you where the problems are. They will tell you how things could be better. You're just enabling that to happen. If you do it that way, you're more likely that those improvements are sustainable because it's come from them. It's not a tick in the box. You know, like 5S, a lot of people will know 5S or tick in a box. Here we go again. We do that every 2 years.
Yeah.
I do it different. I say to the guys, what annoys you?
Right. Okay.
What's the solution? You put that in place. That is 5S, but now it's sustainable.
Right.
So yeah, it's about very much being patient, compromising on actually what you want it to be. You know, you're not always right. I've learned a few times to be enthusiastic, and have the energy there. And very importantly, what I've been learning at the minute is about creative problem solving and about how to take away those blockers we have in our minds. So when we look to solve a problem, we look backwards in our experiences we've had to try and apply that to the future. But that's very restricting. So if you're going to go into engineering, I recommend that you do look into
Sorry, here's the dog.
creative problem solving methods. And also, I would say Lean Six Sigma changed my life.
Right.
I run my whole life now as a DMAIC project. My children don't know it, but you know, the way we talk about issues, the way the house gets tidied, the way things are organised, everything is Lean Six Sigma.
I think I need a lesson, Kirsten.
I recommend. I mean, what I do mostly now is I'm mostly a trainer.
Right.
SPC, SMED. I'm so passionate about it. I know it works. And I think find a job that you love. Find something that you're interested in. Makes a big difference.
Fantastic. So I think the big message is find a job you love, listen to people, be humble, be open-minded, be creative in your problem solving.
Absolutely.
And you know, from your perspective, you've got to say you've got to be perseverance and take risks. That's what you've shown. Is you've had some amazing managers, but you've also come up against a lot of traditionalists along your way. You've had to battle to get where you are. Well done. What an amazing story, Kirsten. It's been such a wonderful pleasure to talk to you today and meet Roland.
Yeah.
It's quieted down now.
I found a warm spot.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you so much, Kirsten. We'll wrap this up for today. I want to remind everybody who's watching us live, thank you very much for joining us, watching us on demand. We've got a playlist of lots of different Drive Live events with different engineers, from petroleum engineers, mechanical engineers, manufacturing engineers. Do check out those ones on demand. We've got some more. In fact, in the new year, we're upping the frequency. We are going for one every fortnight. So January, we're with Joni Valero on the 6th of January. We've got Tom Pascal on the 20th of January. We've got 2 more again in February. Lots and lots more for you to see. Get involved in the discussions as well. Kirsten, have a wonderful Christmas.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
So seasonal today. Have a great end of year to everybody who's watching us. It's been a great pleasure to be with you throughout 2020. You know, it's been a tough year. We've had lots of people have joined us during these live events in this journey and been part of the discussion. I hope we've helped you during these difficult times. We've helped students in academics and our sales partners, been part of the community. Thanks to everybody who's been part of all those live events. We will be sharing a video from the MD soon from Tech Equipment, just a bit of an end of seasonal message. So look out for that next week. Kirsten, again, thanks a lot.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I'll catch up with you again soon. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.